Hey, I'm Terry Murphy for the Data Advocate and often for the senior editor for Realty Times. Women in business, women in real estate in the men's room with Murph. We've got a great man in the men's room. And Mike is a longtime friend. He's one of the top mortgage coaches, very knowledgeable about all things finance. And I invited Mike to tell us what his insights are, or just have a discussion on what's going on with the new changes in the real estate industry based on some of the recent legal issues that have just raised their ugly head and is impacting and really changing how the industry is working. Michael, welcome from ImproveMyTomorrow.com.
Terry, thanks a lot. I'm glad to be here. I was looking forward to this conversation since, I guess, last Tuesday when everything kind of went sideways, and now people are sitting around, and I have a lot of people on the lending side of the world trying to check with what's going on in the real estate side of the world, and what are we going to do to deal with this? What can we do to help? How does that impact us? And I think so much is yet to be determined because so much of this hasn't flushed out. And I think, when you and I first started talking about this, the one thing that came to my mind was, at least this time, it isn't somebody coming down on the mortgage industry, changing our business, changing our paperwork, changing our time deadlines. And I guess at this point, we're just looking at it, sort of waiting to see which way this goes and what the potential options could be on how we can work together to get through whatever this is going to be.
Well, we know that the mortgage industry has been wrung out inside out for a number of years with regulations and whatever. But some of the new changes may have resolutions and solutions in the mortgage industry. And you just talked about a family that wanted to wait to buy until the house prices came down. And of course, interest rates went up, which is, for those people who have not been in the industry for the last 20 years, I mean, it's always been somewhere around 6, 7, 8%, hadn't it? I mean, if you look at the history of it, it's just that their new normal was 3%. So, right. But when I co-authored an area in a book that was done by somebody who I won't mention, the title was "Don't Wait to Buy Real Estate, Buy Real Estate and Wait."
Right.
So tell us what you're seeing with the people that you coach and or consult with or speak to with regards to how the mortgage industry is looking to, be a resource is what I'd say, because you and I were just talking about the fact that so many of the agents that are out there helping buyers don't even know about some of the instruments that we used to have years ago.
Well, Terry, I think, there's a lot of different things that can be looked at and certainly could be done based upon what the new rules are going to be as far as like real estate goes, right? If we just sit there and say, well, if we leave it at that, the buyer is going to be responsible for their own representation, right? And okay, so if the seller can't pay the buyer side commission, that buyer's agent has to get paid in some way, shape, or form, right? And so where does that money come from? What does that look like, and where does that money come from? The second piece of that puzzle comes back to current existing loan programs that don't allow for the buyer to pay a real estate commission, right? It's not allowable for that program. Now, those things could easily, use the word in air quotes around easily. Those things could be changed for sure. But in addition to that, there have been loan programs in the past that you and I have used where we're allowed to finance certain pieces of the puzzle. So maybe part of that solution, just like some cases, there were certain loan programs where you could finance buying the rate down, right? You could finance in certain things. You look at VA loans in particularly, as long as the house appraises, you can borrow whatever 100% of what that money is if you're eligible, as long as the items included were allowable, it could all come out of the loan. So is there room that whatever that buyer's agent commission might be, could that just become standardized as part of, well, we're going to do the mortgage and we're going to finance in? the buyer's commission, just like we add in PMI for certain loan products, or we do on FHA loans where, or the VA funding fee, right? Those things are all possible if the marketplace is going to accept that. And it's hard when you have a ruling like this, that there are so many moving pieces that we've got right now. Part of the thing could be, what will the consumer accept? Where is the threshold for these things? Obviously, the mortgage industry wants to continue to do loans. So if they're pushed to shove where, we've got to do something. And I think from a viability standpoint, I don't think changing some of the programs is all that complicated. Certainly, like somebody like VA would be, they don't want their veterans not to be able to buy houses, obviously. So that would be something that could be done. I'm sure they could make, we could work on getting that, taken care of. The financing piece, let's be honest, most of the mortgage market is now controlled by the federal government, right? That whether it be FHA, VA, USDA, even the, conforming institutions, the GSEs, right? They're, when we're sitting here with Fannie and Freddie, they're still, largely, if the government came down and said, you're going to, you have to finance the buyer side commission, it would happen with a stroke of a pen, because what are the options, right? The government said so you have to do it. So it's just, there's just so many variables. And I don't think, even from a mortgage standpoint, where we've been through radical changes, in the last 10 to 15 years, even this is a bit much, because you don't even know the playing field. And part of the reason I reached out to you is like, okay, I'm talking to a lot of real estate people who are not even taking this seriously. They're saying, this is not going to be anything. And my response is, this is not a matter of if, this is a matter of when. Real estate, whether they want to admit it or not, has just fundamentally changed. What that's going to be, I can't tell you, but it's going to happen, and you better be prepared for it.
Good point. And unfortunately, that's true. They put those, lots of agents just put it over there. But the big brokerages obviously have had to come up with billions of dollars. And so it's going to impact the industry and how we get paid. One of the what do I want to say, foundations for participation, for standards, for ethics, has to have a compensation factor. I mean, nobody can just work for free. So that whole restructuring is not something that's going to be socialized overnight. I mean,
I agree. But again, just like lending, right? We, at one time, you could price your loans, your product, wherever you wanted to price them. And if the market bared it, that was, my first loan was 15 7/8 and 5 points. And it took 3 days for the wire to show up, but everybody was thrilled. Well, you try to price a loan, double digits at 5 points in today's market, and it's illegal, right? So compensation is very narrowly defined on the mortgage side. What can be charged, how it gets charged, what compensation looks like across the board. All that stuff has happened in the past 20, 25 years, but it happened in abrupt steps. And this is for realtors who are thinking this is your abrupt step. And I hope there's a lot of bright minds in real estate. And for us on the mortgage side of the coins, we sit here and we've said that about our own industry. We're looking for some bright minds, and sometimes they're not so easy to find. Certain, a lot of people on the real estate side of this are going to navigate, what does this really look like, and how do we evolve into it? Because the last thing that you want is the government stepping in and saying, okay, all real estate commissions are now X, and we're done. Because that's never going to be an equitable solution, and it's not going to be market based, and that's going to be a problem.
Well, you and I, for 100 years, give or take, have developed golden partnerships, and that is the compliant way for agents and real estate agents and loan originators to really help the consumer in the best and highest ways. And this is obviously going to be another element to it, I think, Michael. We've done this for a long time because at the end of the day, people need food, shelter, and clothing. And we do the shelter thing. In order to have shelter, you have to have money, because very few people come to the closing with a whole bag full of money. In my opinion, I haven't seen a whole lot of that. And so things are going to change. And I think that we're going to need to have your input and your insights and your experiences here more often. So I'm hoping you'll join us for another segment of what's happening in the mortgage and industry and how can we work together to make it work for a higher and better experience for the consumer. Thanks for joining us. Join us again maybe next week, because I think things are changing while we inhale. I'm Terry Murphy for the Data Advocate and Realty Times. Thanks for joining us.